correctly. So let's introduce our panel. So our representative, Ms. Morrison from Alicia Hyman's office. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanisha Morrison. I'm the Chief of Staff to Assemblywoman Alicia Hyman, longtime Southeast Queens resident, longtime community advocate and servant leader, and I am honored to be here today with the Blank Project. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Let's just see, is the representative from Sanders' office here? If so, you can totally speak. Because I don't see you right now. Okay, we'll come back and hopefully they'll be here eventually. Mr. Manai Tafari, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Manai Tafari. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've been fighting the shitstorm now for as long as I can remember. And I just want to say real quick how inspired I am to be here today, because I look at you guys and you don't realize this, but we realize this. And in 20 years, I'm seeing some leaders, I'm seeing some people who are going to push for justice, and some people are going to change the world. So, you know, I see it in your faces, believe it or not, and it really, really inspires me. And I'm looking forward to learning as much as I'll teach tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tafari. Mr. Abraham Tejeda, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Abraham Tejeda. I work for the New York City Commission on Human Rights, which is New York City's anti-discrimination city agency. So we enforce the law and we educate the public about their rights under the city's anti-discrimination law. And I just want to thank you for having me. And, you know, I echo a lot of Mr. Tafari's sentiments. I always feel like it's really amazing to be around the energy of young people who have, you know, so much promise, so much vision. And, you know, often us who are a little bit older, you know, we have so much to learn from you and all the potential that you have. So I am also really excited, really energized to be here with y'all and you know, looking forward to hearing from y'all and what y'all think.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Council member Adrian, it cut off. Council member Adrian Adams, can you please introduce yourself?
I'd love to. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councilmember Adrian Adams, representing District 28 in Queens. That's Jamaica, South Oakland Park, Richmond Hill, and Rochdale Village. Full disclosure, my sister and brother-in-law come from the Queens Defenders. They've since moved on, but I have watched their careers since before you all were born. So I'm just so proud to be here. This is the best seat in the House tonight. So I'm just grateful to have the invitation to be here with you, to have this great dialogue, and I'm so looking forward to it, the best seat in the House tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the energy. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's move right along since we are also stoked for our town hall. So our first category is referring to Capitol Hill, like I was saying prior. So the first question is going to be posed to Mr. Manai Tafari, Esquire, and the representative from James Sanders. But you know what? Due to the fact that I believe his representative or him himself is not here, we are totally going to give this question to our other you know, politicians and public figures. So that will go to at least Ms. Morrison and definitely Ms. Adrian Adams. So the first question is, do you feel that Capitol Hill was an effort to protect wholesome democracy, or was it the latter?
Oh, is that to Ms. Adams?
Yes, but remember, you guys are always freely to answer the question if you guys want to.
I'll go ahead and take a stab at it. You know, wholesome democracy, that word wholesome, let's just put that on the shelf for a second, because democracy is democracy, right? I thought that the act was deplorable. And I thought that it was completely against our democracy and everything that we look forward to in a democratic United States. So my quick and dirty answer is that democracy is democracy. I saw nothing wholesome about that act. I thought it was deplorable. I thought it was embarrassing, but not so unexpected by those of us who know, right? Not so unexpected.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Go ahead, Tafari, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think just to look at it a slightly different way, and I agree with everything that Ms. Adams says. But I think the wholesome democracy part of it makes a lot of sense. If you look at why this whole thing started as a stop the steal. And the people who stormed the Capitol really believe they won. And if you think about it, without counting the votes of people who look like me and you, they did win. So this wholesome democracy, we've been here as Black people since 1619. And it wasn't until 1968, despite the 13th Amendment, that people like us could vote. So a lot of these people who grew up, their parents and the people who educated them and the society that they believe in and they've lived in, it's only been a couple of decades now. So in their minds, this wholesome democracy and losing a presidency and losing the Congress simply because of people who look like us, I really believe in their brains when they say that they won, it's because they really don't see people like us as counting, or at most they see us as counting as 3/5, which would give them the election.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm very, very sorry. I just want to remind every single person on the panel that you have 3.5 minutes to answer each question. And here you go. So can't wait to hear you.
Thank you, Roa.
Thank you for that. I was just going to jump in to the amazing councilwoman's point just around democracy, right? Democracy essentially is this system where all eligible, right, or all people are supposed to be represented. And the reality is, to Ms. Tafari's point, right, like at a point in time, we weren't even considered a part of what that whole system was supposed to look like or eligible within that system. However, I don't think it was to uphold a wholesome or any type of democracy. It was to uphold Confederacy, right? It was not in any way, shape, or form meant for us. So absolutely not. That was people wanting to uphold white supremacy, not caring about equality, but it had nothing to do with democracy, in which the term democracy means. So no.
Thank you so much, everybody. Craig, go ahead.
All right. So the next question is posed to Assemblywoman Alicia Hyman, Miss Adrienne Adams, and Brittany Dixon. And the question is, what do you feel was the biggest failure related to resolving the situation at Capitol Hill?
Okay, so I'll go first. The biggest failure related to resolving the situation of Capitol Hill, in my eyes, is the fact that security personnel didn't even prepare to address the situation after being notified about it approximately a week in advance. And that in itself exposed the disparity in what's found or considered to be a threat in American society. Like, we see the drastic ways that peaceful BLM protesters have been approached in comparison to those who breached Capitol Hill, and that speaks for itself. So in acknowledgement of that, I feel that the situation of Capitol Hill failed Black people for sure by promoting this idea that our counterparts are less of a threat and will be treated more leniently.
I tend to agree with Ms. Dixon. I mean, the question that was posed on was, you know, what do you feel was the biggest failure related to resolving it? I mean, and the reality is, I mean, everybody need to go to jail. I mean, let's just start there. Lock them all up. You get locked up, you get locked up, you get locked up with my Oprah meme. That's just literally what, you know, where we should start at. But the second part of that, which I would have said 24 hours ago, was impeaching Donald Trump. I mean, but we saw those articles of impeachment, you know, walk past that same hall that protesters just were in a few weeks ago. So that would have been part of what I said would have been a royal fail. But because that has happened, I have to say that at least our democracy is working, you know, how it should. But the whole entire situation, to Ms. Dixon's point, like, let's just be honest, I don't think it was a failure. I think it worked exactly how it was supposed to, right? Like, that wasn't a breach. They opened the door. It wasn't a kick in the door. You said, come on in, we got dinner served. So I think it worked exactly how it was supposed to. And the only failure would have been for us to not impeach Trump and put all of them in jail, period.
Yeah, bravo, Tanisha. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, you know, just to take a step back, because I really do think that both of the responses were really great. But let's just take a look at something. For me, and not even looking at resolution, the biggest failure in all of this was that people didn't believe Donald Trump when he told them for 4 years exactly who he was. To me, that was the biggest failure. We could start right back there before we even get to the Capitol steps. This man told us, told America, told the universe who he was 4 years ago and beyond. Come on, he was a celebrity, you know, not even a good one at that. He told everybody who he was. Why didn't everybody believe them? And instead, some shows, over 70 million shows, to stand in lockstep because of who he actually exposed even more, the white nationalism, just waiting for that box to crack. He flipped the whole lid off of it. So for me, the biggest failure was not believing him to begin with. And then when everybody saw, not acting on it immediately. And he's going to go away. He's going to change. It's going to change. Guess what? Guess what? The monster just continued to grow and grow and grow. 5 people are dead now because of it.
Very true. All very, very true. Exactly. All of the responses were fantastic. Oh, I love it already. All right. So the next question is for Mr. Manai Tafari. Do you believe that Capitol Hill staff should revise their staff or change it in a way?
I believe they already have changed it in many ways. People have stepped down. There's been new people moved into leadership. But I think people need to change, and they need to change their mentality more so, just not to look at people, again, like us, as threats. When I was watching on TV, I've never seen people attack the police with tear gas. It's a good tactic. I've just never thought of it. Black people don't think of stuff like that. We just try to avoid the tear gas. So I think a change in mentality, as much as a change in staff, has to happen, because when you really think about it, there's never been a change in the mentality of law enforcement. You know, even during the 60s and 70s, there's never been a time where a revolution happened and all of a sudden the mentality as far as how you see Black people change. It's always been the same, from grandfather to son to grandson. So I think that mentality has to change, and it should really start changing now with the leadership in place.
Hey, I wanted to jump in. Hello, Senator Comrie and Senator Sanders. Just want to acknowledge you both. I also just wanted to say to that, you know, and I think this question is even beyond just Capitol Hill, right? If this means that we're upholding supremacy, if to have people in place that would rather our Capitol be breached than actually do their jobs, and I mean, this is in all facets of life, right? This is your teacher, this is a police officer, this is your boss. Like, if this means upholding white supremacy, yes, revise your staff. They need to be fired. And I mean that in all facets of life. I mean, wherever they might be. We saw at Capitol Hill, those were firefighters, those were lawmakers, your lawmakers, okay? These were people that make your venti latte at Starbucks. The reality is that they're everywhere. And, and if this means having to weed these people out so that we can be secure, fire them, and period, just fire them.
But Tanisha, let's look at DSNY, FIT student.
Yes.
We're still finding these guys.
Right.
We're still finding housewives. You're absolutely right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for that response. I just wanted to give a great welcome to Senator James Sanders Jr. and Senator Leroy Comrie. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. The question that was just asked, and it was directed to Mr. Manai Tafari Esquire, in case you guys would like to respond regarding the question. It was, do you believe that Capitol Hill staff should revise, their staff? This category that we are in, and we are soon about to end it, is the topic of Capitol Hill. So again, just to reiterate, the question was, do you believe that Capitol Hill should revise their staff?
I think that the problem, for first things first, it's good to be here. Good to see all y'all again and again and again. Good to see you. I think that the question is deeper than just a question of staff. I think it's a question of that they had the supremacist attitude themselves, that they did not look at these guys coming up as unfriendlies as they look at the BLM, the Black Lives Matter groups and people associated with that. I think that they looked at it as these are our friends coming up here. Just the other day, we were drinking cold ones with them, and they failed to understand that this white supremacist, this fascist mindset will take them out too. I think that they are stunned and trying to figure out. But it's not just Capitol Hill. The military, the police, all of this has been saturated with this white supremacist mindset. And you can't, we're going to have to figure out more to do than just fire one or two folk who are wearing their Klan sheet. You're going to have to uproot this whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Senator Comrie, would you like to make a comment regarding the question?
I think it's been well answered. I would just say that we need to spin this and make sure that we have more of us working in Capitol Hill. We need to make sure that you guys and more more millennials and more Generation X's move into working in government. It's not just I'm honored to do what I'm doing by the grace of God and the support of the community. But one of my greatest goals in life is to get more people to be deputy mayors, more people to be assistant commissioners, more people to be in charge of government at every level. And I've been proud to say that I've working with my colleagues in government, we're going to make that happen. So I would encourage all of you to look at governmental careers on the federal level, on the state level, on the city level. We need to, just because we have a Democratic a majority in the House now, I think it's even more incumbent upon us to give them air support and be in Washington with our voices stronger than ever, because don't forget 74 million people voted for this guy. There's a real division in our country, and they don't want us to have anything. So we got to take it. It's not going to get given to us. People are not going to bend over. As you can see, they were ready to try to pull off something with his support to try to take over this country. And they're not going away. So the only way we fight back is through being participatory, being involved, being engaged, and taking over the inside of government ourselves. That's why I got into government, because when I first saw what was going on, when my parents, who were immigrants to this country, were trying to get people their documentation, I didn't see anybody that looked like me. So I decided to get into government from the inside up. I've been blessed that, one thing I've never forgotten is that, we can't take anything for granted other than hard work and being able to take power. You can do it through positive work, you can do it through great energy, but we can't just secede our involvement because Kamal is there or Chuck is there. We got to really turn it up, because 74 million people were ready to turn this country back another direction.
Thank you so much, Senator Comrie. So the final question for the category of Capitol Hill is posed to all of our fantastic politicians here in this town hall. And to whoever else would like to answer, feel free to chime in. Once everybody that this question is posed to, feel free to chime in after the fact. So the question is, what do you feel was the biggest failure? Wait, I believe we answered this question already. Yes, we did. Okay, great. So moving on. The next category, that was only 3 questions in that one. So now we're moving on. So the category for this one is government legislature. The first question is going to Mr. Manai Tafari. And again, feel free for anybody to chime in. This question is, do you feel that the information reportedly stolen can negatively influence our government in the future?
I think that's always a big possibility. I think just going back, not to the recent information that was stolen, I think 4 years ago or 5 years ago at this point, that information was used by people who did not have the best intentions. So I think going forward, we're going to see probably a year and 2 years how dangerous this really was at the end of the day.
Does anybody else would like to chime in after that question? Yes, no, maybe so? Nope. Great, moving right along. So the next question is being posed to Assemblywoman Hyman's office, Senator James Sanders, Senator Leroy Comrie, and Councilmember Adrienne Adams. Do you feel that, do you believe that Black women having a black, ooh, forgive me, I'm tongue-tied. Do you believe that having a Black woman as the vice president will make the minority communities become more motivated into getting into politics?
I'll jump right in. I mean, yes, I think, you know, some of us might be too young on this call to remember who Shirley Chisholm was and what she brought to the table. I see Mr. Tafari over there laughing at me. Who she was and how integral she was in women deciding to be not only a part of civic engagement, but actually being a part of government and politics. And I think, you know, it sounds like one of those terms you see all over the internet as a hashtag, but it really matters because hashtag representation matters, right? It's not only symbolic, but substantive, right? This is a Black educated woman. This is somebody who has worked hard to be where she's at, no matter how people feel about her. And the reality is she is literally the first sprinkle of pepper that exists in your vice presidency, right? If we're looking back at all of the salt that existed before her, the reality is in a lot of those places, she did not even have the right to vote. In some of those other parts of those years, right? Like she wasn't even allowed to be a part of these systems. She was not allowed to have equal pay. She was actually bussed when some of these people were, you know, sitting vice president. So yes, I think it matters. I think also when we're just looking at women specifically, we see the fire that AOC lit under young people all over the world. So to say, one, that women can't change the world, but two, specifically to say Black women can't, that would be a lie. Representation matters, and it matters wholeheartedly.
And also, you know, to echo that just a little bit, you know, I think that we really need to take a look at this summer's protests for Black Lives Matter. We really went back in time, didn't we? We started to review some things that we hadn't reviewed in a very, very long time. I remember standing out one of the many protests, and I know everybody protested this summer, all of us were involved. But in one of the protests, I just remember so profoundly looking out there and seeing so many young people, and not just your age young people, I mean, babies were out in the street, right? 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds. So something in me just looked at them and said, you know what, Black lives matter, but Black books matter. People are now hungry for your history that never wanted to engage with you before. Now they're going to your library. They're looking at who you are. They're going to Amazon, they're going online. They're wondering who you really are now because they want to be a part of your story. So if we as Black people are not engaging now, then we'll never engage. So we had an opportunity last summer to take a look backwards again. We heard the names Fannie Lou Hamer come back. The name Rosa Parks came back. Before we even got Kamala, which is my sorority sister, by the way, brag. But anyway, before we even had her in the mix, for real, right? Because she was running for president, not even Veep. We were still bringing on and invoking those names of those ancestors that meant so much to this movement. Black women, strong women that stood there in the gap, you know, for all of us. That's what gave Kamala more of her fight. That's what made her say, even though I didn't make this presidential jump, this Veep thing, I'm gonna go hard. And believe me, those of us behind the scenes, she went hard to get that Veep nod from President Biden. So I think absolutely, you know, what Tunisia said, yes, this propelled us as Black women, as Black people, to take a look at things in a perspective that we've never really taken a look at quite before. The stance that we took this summer, and knowing that we can move a nation the way that we've moved a nation, and then taking a look at now the progress of the first Black vice president of the United States. We should absolutely keep on that charge. Let's keep that electricity in the air, because I think that this is moving all of us. It's going to move generations as well.
Oof, that was powerful. Between the both of you, I don't know, it gave me chills, man. Oh my goodness. Does anybody else? I see you, Senator. I see you. You may go ahead. You wanted to say something to Senator James Sanders?
Yes, I think that all what was said is accurate, but I also think that now we're achieving a type of political maturity where we have to start looking at more than just the melanin of the person. We have to look at what is the message. Are they our messenger? Are they for us? Because you got to remember that Clarence Thomas shares just about everything that we share, and yet he is very much against our interests. Clarence Thomas is a justice on the Supreme Court, one of the most conservative justices on the Supreme Court, who is a dark-skinned black man, well, a dark-skinned man, but we've got to go beyond simply that we share melanin. What is the direction of the person that we're coming up with? It's a type of political maturity. At first, black faces in high places were important. Now, are they going to take our message? Are we going to get what we need, or are they merely going to do the work of others in blackface?
Thank you so much, Senator. Does anybody else from our politicians would like to answer the question?
I don't want to be repetitive. I think it's been well covered. I think that, I'll go back to what my other statement was. We need to, the Black Lives Matter movement was a wonderful thing. It was able to uncrack legislation that had been stuck in different legislative houses for decades. Turning it up is going to make things happen. Turning it up and being active is going to make things happen. I will reemphasize, we cannot just sit on our laurels because we have a black vice president. We cannot sit on our laurels because we have a Democratic majority in the House and Senate. We got to turn it up. There are 74 million people that want to make this country white again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Senator Comrie. Craig, do you want to, wait, before Craig, does anybody else want to answer the question? Going once, twice? So, okay, Craig, would you like to ask the next question?
Absolutely, Alex. So what do you expect? The next question is for everyone. What do you expect from President Biden in regards to bringing the country back together?
I'll take that one. I think we got to all remember that Biden made it to the Senate in 1972 when he was only 29. So that's 50 years ago, 49 years ago. So for 1/5 of this nation's history, he's been planning his presidency, not as some hope, but from the seat of the Senate. And he's a historical figure. And he didn't start out as a great man, but I think he's evolved, and he's evolved towards the good. And I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be the vice president to the first black president, and he's going to be have the second black president as his vice president. I think he can bring the country together because for white people who have good hearts and good souls, they see Joe and they see the good in him. And I think for black people, we also see that. Representative Clyburn vouched for him because he thought he was a good man. So I think him more than anybody else has that ability to bring the country together because he's a historical figure. There's a reason Barack chose him way back when everyone flung him on the trash heap of history. So I think if there's one man in this country who can bring it together, almost the way Lincoln did, almost the way FDR did the other two times in the history when the country needed a savior, I think old Joe could do it if he could stay healthy.
Just to add on, I agree with the points that you just brought up. However, I personally have no expectations from Biden in bringing the country back together because the country has always been divided. Prior to Trump, prior to Obama, there has always been a level of dissonance amongst the people living within our country. And I feel like the only difference that will actually be present in terms of approaching unification is the levels of covert and overt racism that will be present within the media. So with Biden, presenting more liberal ideas and promoting more unification in a way, I feel that our races will come together more, and there will be a less amount of covert racism that was present before when Trump was in office. But however, racism will always be there, so there will always be a division amongst people within our country, at least.
I don't put much stake in Biden. I think that our defense of ourselves, we are our liberators. We can't depend on anybody. If anything that this country's history has shown you is if you depend on anybody, you are in a world of pain. we will have to depend on ourselves. There will be no savior, white or black, coming for us out of Washington. These guys they will make their deals and they will concede away whatever they have to concede away. We, by staying organized, by staying mobilized, by understanding our interests, will push them to not sell us out like they did at the end of the Reconstruction period of this country, where they simply made a deal among white factions and we were thrown under the bus. That could happen again. We have to organize and come up with a vision of what we want and a way of moving it forward, a vision and a plan. That plan has to start at the local level. Where are we going on the local level? That will determine what happens at the higher level. You think globally, but you got to act locally.
I just want to chime in because I 100% agree with everyone said, including Senator Sanders here. But we have to remember that policy does not exist without society, right? If we just take New York State, right, and New York City, that there is a policy that if you jaywalk, you're supposed to be ticketed. You're supposed to be fined. All of us in New York City know we cross the street however we please, right? Because societally, we really don't care about what jaywalking is, and we don't care about getting fined for jaywalking. It's something minimal to us. So Biden is going to do his part, which I believe policy. I think the first 100 days, he's already shown us that. He's already, decreased things. He's already increased things. He's already eradicating things. But I think that society also plays a part in that. That is not just Joseph Biden Jr. I think society, as in us, have to play a part in how these things are streamlined and where they go. I don't think we could have Joe Biden in office. I don't think we could have won Georgia without society, and understanding that he cannot do this alone. And I just wanted to make sure I preference that, because policy without society does not exist.
Oof. Oof, I love it. I love it. I love this atmosphere right now. It's very, very strong and I love it. So does anybody else want to answer that question? Does anybody need me to reiterate it? If not, we are totally going to move into the next category due to time. Yes? No? Great. Okay. The next category is going to be regarding community/culture. This question is posed to everybody on this panel. And it is, what does community look like to you? So what is the definition of community to you?
Community to me is the spirit and desire of people to participate in bettering their neighborhood, empowering each other, helping different members of society, whether it's helping old people, whether it's informing young people, whether it's educating people, whether it's building business. Community is the desire, as Sister Marston said, it's your policy, it's your actions, it's your deeds, not your words. How are you going to give back? How are you going to create opportunities for people? How are you going to eradicate a problem in your neighborhood? It's about what are you prepared to do to make sure that there's a decent quality of life in your neighborhood? Because at the end of the day, it's up to us to make change. There's no longer a world or a society where we can wait for things to happen for us. We got to be the change. And the one thing that excites me about Southeast Queens, my district and Senator Sanders' district, is that we have so many intelligent, articulate, aware, woke, whatever you want to put the terminology for, that are able to do things. And once they decide to work together, there's nothing that we can't achieve in Southeast Queens. There's not any obstacle or any issue or any election that we don't have a direct impact on. There's no policy that we can't put an expert in that room that can outtalk everybody else. There's no opportunity. There's no need that can't be resolved if we look at each other. I haven't seen anybody driving a hoopty in a minute. So I know folks here are working 2 or 3 jobs to do what they have to do. I know parents are working 4 and 5 jobs to make sure that everybody's doing well. People are willing to put in effort. And that's why I'm so excited about this community. And even with the transitions, with the new immigrants that are coming into the community, they're coming in with the same spirit and coming in from traditions of work, traditions of family, traditions of building upon creating a better life for their children. So I'm excited about what we can do And it's just a matter of creating the opportunities for us to focus our energy collectively and in a positive spirit to get things done.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Miss Adams.
No, I was just saying exclamation point. You know, my esteemed colleague and I think that he wrapped it up. I don't even have a bow to put on top of it. He even put the bow on top of it. Well said.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Does anybody else want to add sprinkles? Or another bow, maybe?
Well, I'll put some chocolate sprinkles if that's the case.
Let's go then.
Chocolate, along with his chocolate ice cream, of course. So under those conditions, I mean, the word community has your answer in it. The word unity is all in it. If you really want to know the essence of community, I mean, the Bible speaks of it. It said, for the lack of a vision, the people perish. So with unity, we have to come up with a vision of the future. What does our future look like? Where we ourselves are driving it. I mean, you could go to Garvey, you could go to Malcolm, you could go to Fannie, to Sojourner, to all of our great leaders who have basically said, depend on yourself and come up with what you want and enforce the system to get right. And that's what we're going to have to do, not depending on anybody in high places, but making sure that we depend on each other, that unity.
I have to agree. And in the famous words of a great orator and Drumline, one band, one sound, you know, that's what comes to mind. I think a collaboration when I think of community. I don't think that it can exist, and community can't exist without people. So it is people, like Senator Sanders said, working in unity. I think Senator Comrie and Senator Sanders hit the nail on the head for that one.
I put the sprinkles.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Yes, you did, Senator.
Amen, amen.
Mr. Tafari, I see you. Would you like to speak?
Oh, no, I think it was well said by everyone who spoke on it. I have nothing to add to that more than just learning as we go along.
Okay, great, because we have enough cavities in this Sunday. Oh my goodness, we put sprinkles, we done got ice cream. Let's get to the next question, guys. So the next question is, how does race affect whether or not a community is united? This question again goes to all of our politicians, and this also goes to Mr. Abraham Tejeda from the Commission on Human Rights.
Wow. You know, that's a great question, especially for those of us that either live in or represent very, very diverse communities. You know, it's just so important that we recognize our differences, cultural differences, racial differences, all of that. I think that also, though, that is really the strength of Queens, of Southeast Queens overall. Our strength comes from our cultures, the fact that we have other cultures to look at, to learn from, to speak to differ with, to debate with, to love on. All of that just makes us a stronger people. And back to that word community again, that's really what it's all about. We have to value everybody's culture, everyone's race. We've spoken about race now in the year 2020, I think more than we have, you know, since the 60s. And, but it's about time. It's about time that we pull that race thing issue out of the closet, that we make it front and center, we put it on the table, and we start to chop it up a little bit more. It deserves it, and it's high time. So it's very, very important to acknowledge it. I never liked the expression, you know, I'm colorblind. I was always so, you know, insulted whenever somebody was, and it usually was never anybody of color, right? It was always somebody that was white, right? Let's just say that. It's never black, red, black people say, you know, I'm colorblind. It just doesn't work for us. Yeah, so we have to be truthful, and we also can't be afraid to speak truth to power about race. It exists, let's be proud of it, and let's be loud about it.
I think every decent person understands the fact that skin color and eye color should have the same significance and has the same significance. At the same time, however, I think that the system that we live in is built on racism to such a point where, to me, and I've had some serious experiences with racism in the court and with court cases and in life. And what I've found is that racism is like a big bad vampire. And it's very strong, it's very big, it could disappear and appear strategically. But just like a vampire, you don't really need to fight it, you just need a little bit of sunlight. And once you hit it with that sunlight, poof, your problem goes away. And I think when you speak righteously, and I think that's why a man like Marcus Garvey could get up and talk, or Malcolm X, because when you have right on your side, right, you could defeat anything. So when you know people like you guys who are so young and coming up, when you have that truth to speak, whoever you're speaking it to, you know, let it out there, because racism is weak when it comes up against sunlight. And I think that's important to remember.
Ooh. Y'all are so powerful in here. I'm honored to be on this panel with y'all. Let me just say that. But I wanted to also just make sure I said this out loud, because it lives in my head so much. You know, when I think it's important that as individuals that we are unlearning and relearning, right? Everything that you thought you know, you don't, right? Every day you wake up, you should be looking at something you thought you knew, unlearning it, relearning it, and getting a new perspective of it. And I'm saying this to say that I don't think that race can affect any community where white supremacy does not already exist. And I say that because white supremacy tells us that we have to be crabs in a bucket, that my issue somehow is supreme over your issue. When you're living in a community where your issue might not be my issue, but I can amplify, echo, and be an ally to yours, and you can echo and amplify and be an ally to mine, there cannot be any type of negative impact. Because we both understand that though we might have two different ways to get to the end, though we might have two different issues at hand, my issue does not have to be louder than yours to get to it, right? And I think to Mr. Tafari's point, that's how racism works. That's how oppression works, right? That's how prejudice works. And every day of your life, you should be waking up, right? You should be unlearning that violence. You should be relearning how to be an ally, because that cannot exist in communities where we are not trying to fight for our issues to matter. There's something I say all the time, and people laugh at me, but I don't like the struggle Olympics. Who wants to win at struggling? Why is that a thing? Like, why do we fight to struggle? And I don't know where that co-op of like mindset came from, that like my issue, like I've been hurt more, you know, like who wants to do that? Who wants that in their lives? Struggle Olympics should not exist. You should not want to get the prize in that. So with all that being said, I just, you know, I'm saying to us, because this is something I do every day, I have to unlearn and relearn everything I thought I knew every single day, because where I know that this person's issue, I can echo and amplify and actually don't have to be hurt or felt something from it to be supportive of it. I think that's where these issues won't be a problem. And for too long in our communities, we've been told that that's exactly how it has to be. So eradicate it, defund that mindset.
Wow.
Yeah.
One writer said that racism is as American as apple pie. And by that, he meant that this country was born in a type of racism, created in a type of racism, and upheld by a type of racism. And so, you know, we should not be blind to it. We should understand that it is one of the foundations until we can figure out how to change this thing. So the first thing you have to understand is where are you? Where have you been born? What country? What is the nature of the reality that you find yourself in? And from there, you start shaping yourself. You have to figure out how not to let the thing cripple you. If you're born in a racist society, everybody will have racism in them. And anybody who's talking about, oh, I have none, my God, if you're born in a swamp, everybody has mud on you. Some people have less than others. And in a country that focus is on underdeveloping Black people, making Black people hate each other, hate yourself. One of the first things and positive things you have to do is figure out what is to love about yourself and what are the things that you need to clear from yourself. And then we can look at what is the nature, how do we own some of this society? Because until we own this society, there will always be racism hitting us, because in a butt-kicking contest, everybody kicks the one-legged man. Everybody kicks him. So we have to find ways of becoming powerful in a society that doesn't want you to have any power.
Also, I just want to bring up the fact that even though we live in Queens, which is one of the most culturally diverse places, we're still super segregated. We don't interact with other races, and being that like redlining has caused us to be so dispersed out, we don't talk to other races, and because of that, there's no tolerance. We have misconceptions as towards how the races are acting, and that causes division amongst us, and that causes division amongst our communities. So even though people tend to think that we're exempt because we have so many cultures around us, at the end of the day, we still have that hierarchy that acts upon us. And because of that, we don't get along.
Abraham and I believe Manai, did you guys wanted to say anything? I know you guys like clicked on and clicked off your mics at one point, and maybe Craig.
Yeah, I don't, everybody answered the questions so wonderfully, so I don't have a great deal to add. I guess to sum it up, right, unfortunately, race does sometimes divide communities, right, even in the most diverse borough and the most diverse city in the world. What I can offer, at least from my perspective, that Mr. Sanders and Ms. Morrison kind of touched on. So like at my agency, one of the things that we do in terms of education is we actually have a presentation that deals with racial discrimination in New York City and talks about the history of racial discrimination. Because, sadly, a lot of that history is not stuff that's taught in schools, that's not discussed. And also, like Mr. Safari said before, a lot of this is about education and shedding light on these issues, because the sad fact is that people are not taught about these things, so that way they can continue to justify their behavior. So what we do is, if folks want it, we have these presentations where we talk about the history of racial discrimination in New York. Obviously, we can't cover everything, but, we touch on everything from income and wealth inequality to, redlining and gentrification, to health disparities, to mass incarceration. And so, even the evidence of racism in all these different areas shows, how deep it is ingrained kind of like in our society and in our institutions. So I just hope that, today, right, through this community that we're building here, we can come up with answers, right, solutions to help get rid of that problem of which a lot of you have mentioned.
I just want to take a quick 30 seconds to add again, in addition, for every young Black person out there, try to remember that Black people are great and powerful people for millennia. We've just had a couple bad centuries. So always keep that in the back of your mind.
Oof. Oof.
This is...
Go ahead, Craig.
I don't know about anybody else, but the seasoning, incredible. But real quick, I know we're all going to yell at me if I talk for too long, but real fast, my whole thing is that I feel like we shouldn't have war, well, not war, but like fight race against race. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily a Black and a white issue. It needs to kind of be an everybody against racism issue. You know what I mean? And my whole thing that I talk about a lot is when we conquer, not if, when we conquer this thing called racism, what will our message be? And how will we keep history from repeating itself? And so my thing is always, we're all human beings. We all know what happiness feels like, what sadness feels like. We come from different places, but we all are human beings. And so that should be the common place where we all can meet and say, you know what? I may not like how you live. I may not, agree with how you live. And you may live over there and I may live over here, but we're both human beings. And there needs to be respect and peace in that place. That's my piece. I don't know.
I'm just add real quick. I definitely agree with you. However, I feel like that's a very ideal way of looking at the world. Like, being that we've had such a focus on the binary issues between Black and white, even when we're not at war, we're at war. So with the previous mindsets of people before, yes, it would be great if we could all coexist, but the problems like institutional racism and everything that has happened to us historically prevents us from that, because that's the things that we're battling from currently. So if we can't overcome what's happened in the past, then I feel that the ideas you were presenting before, they're just too idealistic to actually happen in reality, which is sad, but just the truth.
Brittany, I have to agree with you, Brittany, and I know that we're running short on time. We won't get there, and Craig, I love that sentiment with all my heart and soul. We won't get there until and unless America recognizes her original sin.
Amen. 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 Whew. Whew, the atmosphere is hot today. Whew, you guys came with everything. You guys came with the words. Y'all came with y'all little scriptures. Oh, child, it is just amazing tonight now, isn't it? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. The next question is practically posed to everybody again. What are some ways that you bring your community together? What do you prioritize to bring unity into your community? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
I will tell you that I try to do everything I can to be inclusive in everything that I'm doing, in every event that I'm doing, and every outreach that I'm doing. I'm trying to be inclusive. You know, we in Southeast Queens are elected officials. We try to talk in a group once a week now. That it evolved when, even just before the pandemic, just so we can share what we're doing, share what our challenges are, share how we can line up on different major issues. We try to co-sponsor events. James is doing 100 podcasts a week, and he tries to bring us into all of them that he's doing. You know, I mean, the assembly member is doing events. We're trying to be collaborative, and I think we're trying to show people in the community that we're working together. You can work together too. I mean, it's about, and you know, I've tried to be accessible, and I've tried to do a lot of mentoring with young people. You know, one of the things that we've done in my office since I've been elected is doing opportunities for internships for young people, opportunities to do outreach, to roll with me on a weekend and see what I'm doing. You know, everything that I've tried to do since I've been elected is to make sure that we are building relationships within the community that can foster opportunities for collaboration, consensus, and community building. Because it's really about, you know, the main thing that I was elected to do is to create opportunities to make life easier for everyone in our community, to break down the walls of government, to make people want to get involved in government, to make government be responsive and respectful of our communities. And so we have to do everything we can to build those bridges, to create those synergies, and to empower other people to do it better than I've done it. So.
You know, to that point, I totally agree with what the senator said. I came into my seat in a very interesting space, District 28, very interesting, very, very interesting space. I came in under the atmosphere of a we and a them kind of a standoff. And one of the things that I promised my district when I was campaigning for this seat years ago was that I was going to do my best to bring both or all entities together. It was always this side of the Van Wyck or that side of the Van Wyck for my district. I can't stand that expression, and I've worked really hard to eliminate it. One of the things that I've been saying for years is that we are not one side or another side of the Van Wyck. We are but one District 28, and that's why I call it the Great 28. It's because of that whole unity factor, the challenge that I had and still have. But I've broken down a lot of doors, you know, and created a lot of bridges, and I'm really proud about that. I actually had a celebration for women my first year in. I had a women's program, a women's appreciation program in Women's Appreciation Month. And it was not held in Jamaica as typically things were held in the past for the masses. It was held in Richmond Hill, where we brought in, quote, the other side of the Van Wyck, the other side of us as a district together. And what that did was that brought all of the community together in the district. I was told that nobody had ever done that before, to make that bridge, particularly for women, and being the first woman elected to represent District 28. So it was really important to me to do something for women in the district, and to do something and to celebrate the multiculturalism of District 28. It was amazing. We had everyone from preachers, female, to elected officials, past and present, to, I mean, you name it, we had it, to community leaders from Guyana, from India. We brought them together, and it was a beautiful thing. So that's been my mission in the past. It's going to continue to be my mission, to get rid of that whole us versus thing, particularly for my district, and not represent one side of the Van Wyck versus another side, but represent the entire district.
I want to jump in because I think as the chief of staff on this call and growing up with some of these elected officials on this call, I'll just share just a little bit. So I had started a nonprofit in my community before I even got into government. And I'll have to say that Senator Comrie was one of the first elected officials that I considered a mentor. This is somebody who, I know he's just talking about riding along with him and stuff like that, but the reality is he's not a gatekeeper. He is someone who wants you to learn. He is someone who picks up all my phone calls. And he is someone that I would, ask for advice and counsel at any moment. And that's just like who he is as a person. The first time I decided to sit on a community board, councilwoman, then community board chair Adrienne Adams was my chair, right? There was nothing I can't bring to that community board, no idea that I didn't have, that she was not inclusive and I'm always spoke about. The first time I decided I wanted to do emergency youth policing town hall, where everybody told me I was insane for doing it, these elected officials, including Senator James Sanders Jr., co-sponsor that event for me. And the reality is like, that is what it looks like to bring a community together, right? The elected officials in my community, the reason that I think that they bring communities together is because they don't gatekeep, they're also open, and they don't just like sponsor things to sponsor things or come to your thing to come to your thing. They are a part of these things because they want to be a part of whatever is happening in their community. They want to uplift things that are happening in their community. So a lot of times, like as just an individual, you might be trying to do stuff in your community, but the reality is like you have leaders and activists and government officials who help give you that type of validation. And something that is so important to the Black bastion that is Southeast Queens is that, I see organizations starting every day. And I think that just a testimony to the fact that my elected officials in my community uplift and support these organizations being created. They don't be like, I don't know who you are, so I'm not coming. They're not like, oh, never heard of them, so like they got to try again. They're not like, kiss the ring before you can come sit with me. These are people whose doors are always open, even through a panoramic, and keep making space for people to, be able to, to be inclusive and be around them. So, I don't think I would be a chief of staff today without the support of the people, half the people on this call that are your sitting elected officials. So just like from that perspective, I think what keeps our community that branch and what keeps our flow and what keeps, community being community and bridging the gap is that no matter what you are, no matter what you do, they uplift it and they support it. They will help you, if it's your tree, if it's snow removal, if it is starting your 501c3, if it is, a confidential issue, these are people who really pick up the phone. And like, I just applaud and respect them for that. So I want to say thank you for being my electeds in my community that continue to create that space for me. I'd be me without y'all. So love you all.
My main thing in the community now is to keep people in the community and not in jail. So at Queens Defenders, what I've started is what's called Justice 456, which is very simple. It's 3 amendments, your 4th, 5th, and 6th amendments. 4th Amendment, right against search and seizure. 5th Amendment, keep your mouth shut and never talk to police no matter what. And 6th Amendment, you have a right to an attorney. So all you guys should be ambassadors as well for this. It's very simple. And I think when you bring things like this together in the community, it really helps us all. especially with the help of great senators like we have.
Thank you so much, everybody. Does anybody else would like to answer that question? What do you do in your community? What do you do to bring your community together? Just like Miss
I'll take a
Morrison, I
shot.
grew up with you guys, literally. But go ahead, James Sanders, Senator.
It's all good. I've been called worse. I every day. I got some watchwords and some things that I keep repeating to myself, so I can remind myself what we're supposed to do. I try to go to the people, learn from the people, serve the people, and then speak truth to power. I believe that I'm not the Messiah, and that the Messiah has already come. Y'all crucified him. When he come again, you might not want to see him. So under those conditions, I'm not the Messiah. I am coming to the people, learning from our people. I believe that our people have the solution. That if we just listen and combine ourselves, everybody has a piece of the truth. That if we could just put these pieces together, we will solve the problems of our community. So I go to the people, and as Brother Comrie has told you, we forever are doing these podcasts and all kinds of casts where we are listening to you, trying to learn from you and to connect the dots with everybody. And then once we go to the people and learn from the people, we serve the people. We meet the needs of the people. Right now, the need is to make sure people are fed. Right now, the need is to make sure that we fight to make sure that we get vaccinated. Right now, the need is to make sure that our kids get an education, which they're not, and that we get some jobs and unemployment. These are the fights that the people tell us that we need to fight, and we join with them. But then you got to speak truth to power. The same way that we speak on these phones, we got to speak to the powers that be and say, my friends, we're not going back. We're not going back to slavery. We're not going back, and y'all need to pay your fair share. The 1% need to pay their fair share. People are making money hands over fists in this period, and yet when it comes to cutting the budget, they're looking at you. And absolutely, there can be no justice in America without reparations. We got to get our back pay to before there can be any type of justice in this place. And without justice, there can be no peace.
It's so true. No justice, no peace. That's exactly what we say in protests and rallies. It is so true. So the last and final, well, it's like a two-parter question to be very frank. It's regarding discrimination, and this is how we're gonna end it. Closing remarks, and then we are out of here at exactly 6:30, guys. So the final two-part question is, what are the steps that a person should take when they are being discriminated against at work? And the second part is, when a person's human rights have been violated, how do they file a complaint or a report?
Okay. Yeah. Well, so if somebody's experiencing discrimination at work, the advice that I would give them, like from the perspective of the commission, is the first thing you should do is document. So even if that's taking down notes, even if it's identifying other people in the workplace who may have experienced what happened to you, you want to try to document exactly what happened, why you believe is discrimination. It can include notes, recordings, like I said, other witnesses. And then, I work for the Commission on Human Rights. Like I said, we deal with discrimination. There are two other entities, a few other entities that can also deal with discrimination in New York City, but we're the ones who deal with it on the city level. And I think that we have the broadest anti-discrimination law out of all the 3 levels of law. So those folks should report that incident to us. They can call 311. They can call 212-416-0197, or they could visit our website, which I could put in the chat, and they could also report it there. But the first step I would always take is document everything, right, as much as you can, because it's not just what you know. Sometimes it's what you can prove, right? And you need to be able to come at least with some evidence, not everything, but some evidence that the folks on our team, the attorneys that we have on staff, can use to prove your case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abraham Tejeda. Anybody else would like to piggyback off of what he said? If not, the last and final thing I would love to say is thank you, everyone. I cannot believe I am in a room with a whole bunch of politicians. It's like Christmas in January. The point of the matter is, like, just to touch upon the last thing, is that with Miss Morrison, you know, same thing. I grew up in Southside Jamaica, Queens. That is where I am from. I love Southside. What? From Springfield to Laurelton and all the way down. And the point, I see you, Brittany. And the point of the matter is, I remember, yes, Southside, we are outside. You know what I mean? So the point of the matter is, like, for real, I grew up with seeing Senator James Sanders coming up. I remember Senator Leroy Comrie. I remember when Donovan was under James Sanders. Oh my goodness, Senator James Sanders. I remember the whole the running for Miss Council Member Adrienne Adams. Man, I grew up seeing you guys, and it is just marvelous to just see you guys where you all are today. You guys are totally the definition of Black excellence, I must say, in our community. I love to see it. I'm happy you guys were able to be here and took the time to be a part of our panel. The Blank Project loves you guys. The kids were here texting me in the chat just saying, oh my goodness, they're legends, and I loved it. And not for nothing, I thank you. We have many more. Thank you, Abraham Tejeda, for being here on behalf of the commission. Thank you, Mr. Manai Tafari, for being here for our Queens Defenders staff, for our attorneys. I am so grateful. You guys don't even understand. I am so appreciative. Does anybody else from the Blank Project like to say anything to our phenomenal panel? Yes, no? So?
Yeah, I just want to say it was a privilege to sit in the panel with you guys. Like, everybody was saying some very intellectual things, and I really took everything in. So just thank you.
Thank you. Brittany, Craig?
I second that. Thank you. I was literally the child. Like, it's Adrienne Adams. Oh my goodness, you're right. Like, all of you legends in the community. Like, when I was younger, I would hear like the whispers and everything. It was hilarious. But thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Mother Brittany. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, I will second that as well. This has been an amazing forum. I really enjoyed it. This is my aspiration. This is what I want to be. And you guys are thank you for breaking down barriers. Thank you for being the first woman and the first Black people in our community. So seeing that just gives me hope, so that when I get there, you know, it's gonna be so thank you in advance for breaking down barriers, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Anybody else? Roa? Giselle? Maybe not.
Hey, that I wrote down what you guys said, and your quotes is going to make history. So I got you, don't worry. And I put your names next to each one in the year, so you're good. No, but honestly, I'm really thankful, and that was amazing. Like, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. I don't. You guys are amazing, and remember that.
Oh, y'all was so sweet. I raised y'all right. Go ahead, Giselle.
Honestly, I would like to say thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are legit amazing people. You guys are just truly inspirational, and your drive, your purpose is inspiring. And I just love our talk today, okay? It just put me in such a better mood, and I feel like we are ready to start this year amazing. It was a pleasure being here with you guys, and thank you, Blank Project, for having me. Okay.
But yes, just so that you guys can remember, the Blank Project is the Queens Defenders Blank Project. We're fairly new. We started early, say mid 2020, and it stands for Building Leaders and Activists in a New Culture. And yes, it is culture with a K. And so we definitely are excited about what is more to come in 2021. Again, if you guys have anything that you guys would like to ask or be a part of our next panel in February, March, and so on and so forth, I will totally be reaching out to you guys. We try to do our town halls the last Tuesday of every month, around the same time, 5 o'clock, to let you guys have a heads up. But I will totally be in contact with you prior to that. But definitely, I look forward to doing business with you guys. I look forward to having you guys on many more panels and totally building our communities and making them nice and great again. Okay.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I look forward to many other collaborations. I'm actually still in Albany. We have transportation hearings and I'm dual Zooming while I'm listening to testimony, but I turn down the testimony to listen to you guys because as chair of corporations, I have oversight on transportation as well. But this was important to me, and I truly enjoyed the interaction. And I look forward to much more with all of you guys, and as we all grow together to make sure that our community stays the best minority community in the country. Thank you all.
Y'all heard my humble senator talking about, well, I mean, I just have the oversight anyway, so I didn't even have to be there, who all there. But I just wanted to say thank you all for having me. And I think that these are just really, really important because we have to remember that like our electeds cannot do their jobs without us. And sometimes I think, again, around that unlearning, right, we were taught that government works and we just like parade around it and hope that, you know, the sprinkles trickle down. But the reality is they cannot be who they are. They cannot do what they do without the empowerment of our community. So like we have a duty to continue to empower ourselves to then go empower them. It is not the other way around. I don't know who lied to us. So I'm just grateful to have sat on this panel on behalf of my boss, Assemblywoman Hyman, who is in that transportation committee because she ain't a boss like the senator over here. But I am grateful to have been here with this esteemed panel. I dropped my information in the chat. That door is always open. Please, anybody feel free to reach out, and looking forward to the Blank Project and more work that you all will be doing in the future. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Blank Project, so proud of you. And I just want to say, you keep us humble. You all are responsible for the way that, for us, the way that we deliver, the way that we perform. This is you. We take you with us wherever we go. We're proud to do it. So keep us, we know that you will, but stay plugged in. Alexander, I know I don't have to tell you that. Keep us plugged in. Keep us humble. It's the only way that we are going to continue to be your servant leaders, the people that you've called us to be for such a time as this. So as I always say, I love what I do, and every day I wake up on purpose with a purpose. So call me.
Oh, I'm excited.
Allow me to chime in and bring a little bit more sprinkles, might as well.
And syrup at this point.
Listen, I bring it on. I'm bringing it on home. Now, here's the truth. The future belongs to the youth. After all is said and done, it's you who are going to take it to where we could get you close, but you got to score that touchdown. And we are sitting on the shoulders of giants. I mean, Leroy sits on Archie's shoulders. I sit on Flake's shoulders. I mean, we could just keep going and everybody sits on somebody's shoulders. So you all need to sit on our shoulders and go higher than we are. If if you're not doing that, then you've misunderstood what Sister Adrienne is saying. She wants you to go higher. What all of these good people are saying.
Oh no!
Oh no,
I think
we lost James.
we lost
He was on a roll. He was on a good roll.
And Zoom couldn't take it.
That was a double.
Yeah.
That was a triple double in basketball, man. Oh no. But again, it was a pleasure. I can't wait to do many more town halls and many more events with you all. And I hope you all have a great night. Stay COVID free, I hope. Wear your mask. Don't talk to too many strangers at least. And if so, stay 6 feet apart. And have a great, blessed rest of the night.
Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Have a good one, everybody.
Good night, everybody. God bless.